Hi, I'm Loretta, and I'm really glad that you showed up today. Welcome to my sewing room. Okay, here we are with block number 7 of the Alaska quilt. I've got it all laid out here on my cutting table ready to piece together, and I've got it sort of exploded out into the 4 different quadrants that we'll be piecing. And this is another one of those months where we need to be careful about the placement of this particular fabric and this one. It's hard to tell in the picture which one is which. So just make sure you're placing them properly so that you'll get the finished result that you want when you're done. So I'll meet you over at the sewing machine and we'll get started. Okay, here we are at the sewing machine getting ready to get started with block number 7. So I'm going to get my first pieces here, starting with the upper left quadrant. I'm going to piece these together, and I'm going to match this point with the raw edge of this diamond, lining up that straight edge. And we're going to piece this together with a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance. And one thing I have to do is apologize for being gone for so long. I went on vacation in July for about 2 weeks, and the day after I got back from vacation, I came down with a terrible case of vertigo that lasted about 3 weeks. So I am just now getting back to getting everything caught up. So I'm going to get this seam pressed open, and then I'll add the next triangle. Next one goes on the opposite side. Once again, lining up that point with the straight edge and getting those raw edges lined up. So I haven't touched my sewing machine for probably close to 4 weeks. The vertigo was pretty debilitating. So before I press that, I'm going to go ahead and put these together so I can press those at the same time. And lining up this point with that point, and all the raw edges lined up. Okay, I'll get those 2 seams pressed, and then we'll join these 2 subunits to make the first unit in the upper left-hand quadrant of this block. And there's those 2 subunits with the seams pressed open. And remember, the 3-piece unit goes to the right of this larger diamond piece. And just like before, this little dog ear piece sticking out lines up with this top tip of that blunt corner. And I just remembered I have the wrong needle in my machine for this. I was sewing a handbag last time I used my machine. So I am going to change out my needle and get this last seam of this unit pressed. Okay, needle is swapped out. I had a large denim needle in there because I was sewing on some wool, but now I switched it to a 70-10 universal, which is what I generally use for everything but bag making or embroidery. So now we have finished the first unit of this block, and all the seams are pressed open, and we're going to go on to the next unit. And here are the pieces for that. And this unit is pieced, this whole block is pieced exactly the same as many of the previous blocks in this quilt. We just have some new fabrics that we're working with this time. So just get everything lined up. I like to start down here at this point where those two pieces have to line up. My Bernina, my scant 1/4 inch, is just barely to the left of the 1/4 inch line on the throat plate. Right, I'll get that pressed open. We'll add the next side. And then I'll add this one, and I'll do a little chain piecing again and add, put those two units together. Alright, get those pressed and put this second unit together. And now we're ready to sew these two pieces together. Alright, the next unit is now finished once I get that pressed, and we'll move on to unit 3. And here's the next one ready to go. That one and add the second one, as well as chain piece these two together as well. And I did have a wonderful time on my vacation. Got to go to Quilt Retreat and spend some time visiting with family and my best friend. So that was really nice, and I'm really glad that the vertigo did not hit until I got back from my vacation. So I wasn't actually even able to drive for about a week. Add this one in. Once again, just matching this outer, or this top end of the blunt tip to this top end of that blunted tip. And in case you're wondering, the reason that we sew with a scant 1/4 inch on some things is that these are cut very, very precisely because they're all laser cut. So there's kind of no room for any error here. But the reason we sew with a scant 1/4 inch is because here where we press, there's actually a tiny little bit of space taken up by the fold of the fabric. And by sewing with a scant 1/4, just barely scant, you are making up for that slight difference that the fold of the fabric takes up. So I will get these two pressed and come back and we'll join those together, and that will be the end of the third unit, unit C. Alright, one more seam and this unit will be completed. I'll get that one pressed, and we'll move on to the last unit. All right, last unit for this block number 7. Press and add the second unit. Okay, I'll add the next triangle and then piece these 2 larger pieces together. Alright, we are almost done with the final unit for this block. Alright, I will join these and press them, and then we'll start assembling the block. Okay, I'll get that pressed, and then we'll start putting the pieces together to completely finish this block, block number 7. Okay, what I have here are the 2 left-hand quadrants of the block, so the upper left and the lower left, and we'll put those together. Again, making sure that you stitch on the correct side. Everything looks like it's lining up nicely. Alright, I'm just going to piece the next 2 together. Oops. Dropped one of them. And again, right sides together, make sure you're going to sew the correct seam. I'm lining up both the ridge along here, the ridge along here. I like to let that presser foot lift to let the fabrics underneath relax when I'm going through that bulky area. Keeping an eye on my scant 1/4 inch, and once again slowing down over that bulk. Alright, 2 halves are now stitched together. Get those pressed open, and then we'll join the 2 halves into the final block. And when I got this far, I did check with the picture to make sure that I had everything in the correct placement. And I did notice too on this month's block that in the photos of the block, this fabric is different. It's kind of it's still the same green background, but there's a little floral motif on it instead of these circles. So I'm not sure if your kits are the same as mine or why they changed that, but anyway, just thought I'd let you know that I did notice that. And also in this block, like I mentioned before, these 2 fabrics, this one with the little square dots and this one, are a little hard to tell in the photograph which one goes where, so just pay really close, careful attention to the placement of those 2 light fabrics on this block. Alright, ready to sew this final seam, and month number 7 will be completed. Just get a clip in the center, get everything lined up. I'm using my stiletto to hold that center together since I took the clip out. Moving a little slower over that center bulk and using my stiletto to make sure that everything stays flat. I'll make sure this last little bit is lined up. Alright, just have to get that pressed now. And block 7 is finished, and I'll meet you over at the cutting table and we'll show the finished block. Okay, here we have our finished month number 7 for the Alaska Dahlia block of the month. And I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. I enjoy doing these. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you for the next one for block number 8. Thank you.